Oh, sorry. Thanks. Sorry, I'm glad I got it fixed, the audio fixed. But again, I'm glad you're here. We're going to talk about the FERPA waiver and letters of recommendation and then summer workshops. So I appreciate you all being here, and I'm just going to fill you in on the things that we're working on in those Friday English classes. Students who are in AP seminar, AP research, or maybe they're in AP language, they all are getting this information when they come and join us on Fridays. So yeah, I just want to get you all caught up on what's next. So right now, we're gonna start out with the FERPA waiver. We're gonna work on this in the coming weeks. But I just want to give you a little bit of information about it because, I tell students all the time, it would be really irresponsible of me to present you with a waiver and not discuss the details of it and not discuss its role in college planning. So the FERPA waiver is an acronym for it says federal, but I believe it's actually Family Educational Records Privacy Act. I'll have to correct that. I apologize. Um, but the FERPA waiver kind of is like you could say it's related to the HIPAA waivers that we sign when it comes to protecting our privacy in healthcare and in our healthcare records. The FERPA waiver is for families and their educational records. And so it's a federal law that basically just provides protection for those records. And students are often thinking, and also parents too, like, why is this a thing when it comes to college planning? Like, why is it related to college planning? And the big reason why is because transcripts, letters of recommendation, school reports, like all of those documents are considered educational records, and they're actually protected by FERPA, by this Privacy Act. And so what that means is that students are presented with a waiver, kind of at the front end of this process, the front end being, in a couple of weeks. And so they sign the waiver, and they sign it because, and I believe I have got 3, maybe 4 reasons on here. Let's see. In the application process, students are asked if they want to waive the right to review all documents submitted on their behalf. And that is the wording that we see in the FERPA waivers. There's actually one FERPA waiver that I've seen that says, waive the right to review all documents submitted by me or on my behalf, which is kind of contradictory because that means that wouldn't be they would see them as they are anyhow. Yeah, so this is the wording that we see. And this is of course, the wording that when students read it, they're a little bit alarmed because, they're thinking, oh, really, they're being really thoughtful about these recommenders that they're asking to write letters for them. And students are thinking, well, I'm really curious, like, what are they going to say about me? And of course, they are recommendations. And so our students, are of course curious about what their teachers will write, understandably. But what I recommend students do with the FERPA waiver is go ahead and sign it, and I'll get to the why. Um, because waiving your right, like going ahead and signing it, waiving that right communicates to colleges that the recommendations that are submitted are genuine and authentic, and they feel like your teachers, your recommenders, whomever they are by waiving the right, you're giving them the space to compose something that is really truly genuine. And that makes sense, I suppose. The other reason is that, or not the other reason, but as far as more information about the FERPA, students can actually communicate with their recommenders about acquiring a copy of their letter later on, for future usage in scholarship and job applications. And that is entirely contradictory, contradictory of what whatever this waiver purpose it's supposed to serve. But you know, Crosstown High is not like, we're not like a super duper academically competitive school. We are we are so relationship driven that the idea of, withholding a recommendation from a student as they move on to their next phase of life is kind of crazy to us. And so, whether students want to go and attend a four-year college or if they are going to go into the workforce, we want them to have a letter of recommendation. They want so that they are able to feel supported and know that they are leaving here equipped for what is next. So again, I realize that there's a whole lot of contradictory information there in terms of what the FERPA waiver is. But basically signing it and waiving the right to view everything, view all of the documents, is what makes the documents flow more easily through the transfer process. There can often be holdups and hiccups without signing the FERPA waiver, and without signing it, we're not able to use the tools that we have to view the confirmation that the documents were received. And that's like a big shoo, for the students. They were really relieved to know, okay, everything went through and it's sent perfectly. So again, I realize it's very contradictory. I acknowledge that, and I acknowledge that to the students as well. And we proceed, we move on. Students, all juniors, are going to sign this waiver upon, with my recommendation. That's what I urge them to do on Friday, April 26th during English or this AP seminar, research language class period, whichever your student is taking for their English course. Everybody's going to sign it during that class period on Friday, April 26th. So, as parents, like, I really hope that you'll make sure that Friday, April 26th, like, when there's the like, I don't feel good, because it happens, that yeah, like maybe you urge them to stick it out through English as long as they don't seem contagious or really, really, really sick, just because we want to get this step done. And then that way, everything else can run a lot smoother. And that's what I'm here for. I want to try to, bring ease to this process, because it's just a lot. It's a lot. Okay, so the next thing leading in, going from the FERPA waiver, the next thing that we're going to work on in May is letters of recommendation. And parents, again, like, there's really not a lot that you need to do in terms of letters of recommendation, but I know that it's helpful to feel looped into the process so that you know what they're working on. And if there is an opportunity, you can, start a conversation about it. So when it comes to letters of recommendation, some colleges require them. Some colleges say that they're optional, and some colleges don't even accept them, which is interesting. But the letters serve the purpose of telling more about the student from a different perspective, from a teacher who they have worked with, who they know, and who has seen them grow over the time that they've been at Crosstown High. So we really try to, or I really try to urge students to, pick a teacher who, maybe they really may have actually struggled in the class. It might be a class that's not their favorite class. Just to think about it that way, that like, that, maybe if math is not your subject, get a recommendation from that teacher, because they definitely saw you face the challenge and rise to it and overcome it. So I just always urge students to don't just think about the teacher that's like, oh, my favorite, my warm fuzzy teacher. Like, think about the teacher who really like helped you grow and evolve. So normally when it comes to letters of recommendation, colleges that do want a letter, that do require them, they will prefer a letter from a teacher that teaches like what people would describe as like a core subject, like English or math, history, like a social studies, or science. And and you know, that is not always like 100% possible, but that's what we would like. You know, that's what they would like. They also get a counselor recommendation that you see on the screen, that's from me. So that's one letter of recommendation, but it kind of goes into a different category and when it comes to their application. But I do write those for every single junior who is doing a college application and submitting it to make sure that that of course that not only is that requirement fulfilled, but again, like that I'm writing a genuine, authentic letter in support of the student and their intentions for learning after high school. So yeah, they will all those who apply have a letter from me. And again, like that is based on my work with them through over the years for some of them, and then definitely like in this process throughout this current school year and then into next year. So that's an A+ guarantee. And then the next type of recommendation that they're going to look for is one from those core subject teachers, an English teacher, a math teacher, science or social studies teacher. And I realize that like that's a lot of different subject areas. They really only need to pick maybe one or two. Sometimes students will overdo it. They'll jump in and think like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get, you know, 6 letters, and we don't need 6 letters. Like there's no college that needs 6 letters. It is best to keep it simple and definitely targeted. And you know, if a college that is on your child's list requires 1 letter and then offers like 2 optional letters after that, and that's a school that your child really wants to get into, like I always tell students, I'm like, if you really want this, it's not optional. So treat it that way. And so yeah, that you know is definitely, those definitely make for strong letters. But again, you know, sometimes it could be better for some students, especially those who are maybe pursuing art school, to ask for a letter from a teacher who is a fine arts teacher, or those who are planning on going into, say, like sports medicine. Like they're like, okay, I'll make sure that I get a letter of recommendation from Coach T, and again, and so forth, so that way it's all it's all more tailored and fitted to what the student is pursuing. Yeah, so those letters, those recommendations, we're going to start requesting them in May, and then the net, you know, like the next, there's a whole process to it, like that's really probably not interesting to parents, but you know, involves like, you know, conversation about it with the teacher, and then you know, filling out a form that gives the teacher a little bit of information about where the student is applying and what they want to study, and makes it so that it's a more streamlined process for the teacher as well. Oh man, Miss Mueller, our beloved Miss Mueller, gets a little overwhelmed every year in the best possible way, because it is truly a pleasure to write the letters. It really is. And but you know, we want to make sure that it is also a process that works well for them, up until the point that, you know, they upload the letters. So, oh, sorry, I skipped this one. There's also an option for like quote unquote other recommenders. And in the past, that's been different for every student. Some students don't have an other recommender. They'll have just teachers, but sometimes there's an adult in a student's life who they really, you know, can't imagine leaving out of this process because they've seen the student grow so much and learn. And that's who falls into that category. It may be somebody outside of school, like a piano teacher, like a church youth group leader. Sometimes it's a club soccer coach, but I think you all probably can think of people like that who would be great recommenders for your student. And you know, there are a couple of different ways that those letters are acquired. A lot of the time, the like other recommender, that individual will send it to me, and then I am able to position the document to easily send and be tracked using school links, our software that we use. So that's most often what happens. There might be like one other means of doing it, but I think that, like I said, it brings the students some ease and a little bit of comfort when they're able to see like, okay, this document was sent on this day and there's a reference number and it was downloaded and viewed by the college. So it brings them a little bit of ease in that process. Okay, all of those letters are uploaded to school links. And then once the student is ready, I send all of the documents to their colleges using school links. And again, like the details of that are, I don't know, I kind of think are kind of boring to other people because I'm super nerdy about it. And I'm like, well, if the college uses Common App, then it flows through Common School Link from school links to Common App to the college. But if they don't use Common App, then they use the platform called Parchment. And either way, we get a confirmation that it's been received. And sometimes, like I said, especially with Parchment, there's a reference number. But again, this is all super nerdy technical stuff that is only interesting to me and probably satisfying to me because I see the students satisfied when they can identify, okay, this one has been viewed and this one has not. But yeah, we're going to work on this a whole lot in May and really dive in. Okay, I'm going to throw these up here on the screen. You may have seen this little poster flyer image in the College and Career Planning Hub, which is the new handy dandy website. And I'll, once I'm done talking, I'll put the link to that in the chat for those of you, if you haven't seen it yet, because it's really helpful. It's like a nice landing spot where you can get the information that you need, including what you see here on the screen, but then also the video of this will be on there, and other meetings too. If there's some that you missed, you can go back and put one on while you're chopping vegetables in the evening or whenever. Anyhow, summer workshops. We've got the first one that starts. It's going to be the weekend, or not the weekend, the few days after Memorial Day weekend. May 25th or 29th, like, because it's really just a one-day workshop, but I just want to make sure that there's flexibility for people, for different students. And that's the personal statement design course. And that is just like a one-day workshop. Come in for 4 hours. Obviously, we'll take breaks. But yeah, they're going to leave with their first draft. And that's a really exciting thing. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of like deep work to dig that up, but we're gonna do that, and I'm really excited to work with them. And then the second workshop is called Words on the Page, and that is where students who have finished the personal statement design can come back and do some more revisions and do some more developing and do some editing and get some feedback from one another. And so that one is shorter. It's just a couple hours. And again, we'll take breaks. But yeah, that one is also at the beginning of June. It's June 3rd or 4th. And then the last one that is on here is the Common App Part 1. And that is just like a short, like 2 hours. And we're gonna do, when I say Part 1, there are parts of Common App that you can fill out before it officially opens on August 1st for the class of 2025. So we're gonna gather together on July 23rd and work on that for a couple of hours, just so that everybody feels like, okay, we've got a good handle on this. Common App is interesting. Like I said, a lot of this stuff is super nerdy and I could talk about it forever, but I don't want to hold you hostage. One of the things about Common App is that there are sections of it that are really awkwardly designed and questions that are not very intuitive and are a little bit confusing. And that's part of why we do it, to do those parts, together, is so that students can get a little bit of clarity on some strangely worded questions. And then that way, they can go into the next part of the application with confidence, knowing like, okay, I don't need to go back and completely redo or revise that. So the sign up for these workshops is in the college and career hubs. And some students have signed up. I'm hopeful that more will. And the reason why is not, I tell the students this too, is that the timeline that we're working on is really carefully paced so that students don't get overwhelmed. But if it is the case that, they're just kind of not feeling like signing up, which, happens. I do recommend trying to sort through that, have a conversation about it and sign up. And the reason why is because things will pile up really easily. And there's space within, these time frames. There's space for this. When we get closer to, the fall and come back to school at the end of the summer, there's not really as much time for this. There's a little, but there's time, you know, within these spaces in May and June and July. So I just really strongly recommend that they go ahead and commit to it if they're going to be in town. There are some students who are going to be out of town on all of those dates. And I'm going to work something out for them too, to be able to have an opportunity to work on these things. It may be that we actually hit the ground running in August, right when they come back to school, and do it on a Saturday. That is an option. So that way, for those who are traveling, they can still have access to it. I did tell students though last week, I was like, if you're working this summer, if you have a job and far enough in advance that there's going to be this one day that you can't go in, that's okay. And you can talk to your boss about it. And as long as you give them lots and lots of warning and reminders, like reminders via email, because those are, traceable and can't just be forgotten. It's a good idea to just go ahead and put that out there. Okay, here's the slide you've all been waiting for. What can you do, right? How can you help? And number one here, I think you already heard me say, ensure that they come to school on April 26th to complete that FERPA waiver. It's funny, that waiver it's really not that hard, but somehow the most well-meaning and brilliant students can sometimes, click the wrong thing. And I just don't want that to happen to them. They're so, like I said, precious and brilliant and well-meaning, and we just got to do it right. And I want to make sure that we do it right. The second thing is to talk about those summer workshops and urge them to sign up, because like I said, we're gonna time is gonna keep ticking. And as we get into the summer, and then once the school year starts, we've got a lot of work to do. And it's totally doable, but I know that if we keep a steady pace, including doing the workshops when they're happening in the summer, if at all possible, that's going to eliminate a lot of stress for everybody. So that's what you can do, parents. I'm throwing this up here on the screen, but please know you're going to see it in Parent Square as well. This is the next gathering on Zoom, just throwing this out there. It's Tuesday, May 14th at 5:30. And this is a big one, right? The topic is financial aid and scholarships, which is important to us all. And I'm really, really hopeful that you'll be there. I will record it. But I know that there are lots and lots of burning questions, and it would be helpful to get some explanation. So, please jot down those questions and then bring them that night. I'm excited to answer them to the best of my ability. And again, this is something that is for everyone, no matter what your student is doing after they graduate from Crosstown High. This is important stuff here. So I look forward to being back on Zoom. Can you imagine anybody saying that? I look forward to being back on Zoom, but I do. I like being on here with you all. I like to make sure that you have the information that you need. Okay. Here's the part. I'm hopping to the chat. I do see that there's a little red 3 on there. One about how I was muted. Sorry about that. Okay. Do I review the teacher recommendations? In the past, I have I have. Yeah. I was gonna say like, well, maybe there was one, but I have reviewed them. Um, and yeah, I do. I usually review them, and I have like I guess all I could really say is that like I haven't seen one that like ever brought me any alarm. Like all of them, I feel like brought like, maybe a different perspective from mine, but that's appropriate, because the relationship between those teachers and the students is different from my relationship with them. And so yeah, like I have reviewed them and deeply appreciated them, and like and just thought that it was obviously like important to have more of the story of each student from another perspective. But I just appreciate reading other teachers' experiences with a student, and then maybe like taking a moment and thinking about my own experience with them. So yeah, I don't have like a strict system though for that. Like that's not something that I don't say to teachers like, okay, send it to me so that I can read it. But I do read them. And they know that. The teachers do. So yeah, I hope that that is helpful for you to know. And I like that question. That's like a really it gives me the opportunity to like just really organically answer the question and think about what that looks like. Yeah. If any of y'all have more questions, you're welcome to drop them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself, either one. I'm here for it. All right. I'm so thankful that y'all hopped on tonight. I appreciate you. I appreciate you letting me know about the sound too. Sorry about that. That's some amateur stuff right there. Like leaving yourself muted. I haven't done that in a long time. It's like probably, I don't know, maybe like 2018. It was a long time ago. But it just shows how out of practice we are, being in person, which I'm fine with. But yeah, I appreciate y'all being here tonight. Again, May 14th is when we'll be back on here talking about financial aid and different scholarships, and getting out a lot more information about that, and yeah, and getting everybody in the know. I will say before we sign off that when it comes to scholarships, like it just feels, and also just paying for college, it feels overwhelming, it feels daunting. There are parts of it that feel really mysterious, and that does not align with the way that any of us make purchases, because we know that we look to see like, okay, do I have $6 to buy this coffee that I know is $6? And that's not how it works with paying for college. Like there's some guesstimations that you can make on the front end, but a lot of it unfolds as you go, and that's really hard for us to wrap our minds around, understandably, because it's not aligned with how we make purchases. But I've got a lot of information for you all about how the process works, and how we can be strategic, and just understanding, and trying to demystify the things that we feel like are mysterious. So yeah, I'll be back here on the 14th, and I appreciate you all. And I hope that you have a great night. And again, if questions ever come up, feel free to email me. Sometimes I'm real quick turnaround. Sometimes it takes me a little bit, but I'll get back to you for sure. So I hope that you have a great night, and thanks again for hopping on here. And I'll see you all on Zoom next month.
Thanks so much.
Bye. You got it. I'll see you soon.